All right, we are here again, ladies and gentlemen. I am very excited about tonight, and we are really going to settle in and just take the time to think. Now, I named this show uh, Deceptions and Lies. What are the pulleys and what are the levers of white supremacy? And I came across a very good video that includes Chris Hedges explaining how white supremacy works and how they were able to go around the world and use this game they play, the game of divide and conquer. But with that, I would like to start with the introduction. I'm going to have to apologize if you hear any noise or any music. I'm a Dominican American, and we Dominicans just love to play music really loud. You know what I mean? And it can be like 3 blocks down, and you can really hear it. So if you do, and I'm hoping we don't, it's kind of calm right now. But please excuse it, and we'll just have to kind of fight our way through it, right? So tonight we're going to be dealing with the lies and deceit and the deceptive practices of white supremacy and what that is. We're going to be covering a few videos, uh, more or less 25 minutes long, a couple of them, and 15, I call a couple 15 minutes long, but it's very, very, very important. And also, in the near future, I'm going to say that in about a week or two, no longer than 2 weeks, I'm going to do a very deep analysis of my book, The White Man's Burden of Lies and Deceit. Matter of fact, let me pull that up, and so you can see it, and it is available on Amazon. It is an ebook, and it deals with, um, hold on, it deals with um, white supremacy and what that is, understanding white supremacy. That is book 2, and in book 1, I deal with the fact of white supremacy and what that is, and an overarching question um, that hammers home in every brown-skinned person's mind, right? Um, why do white people hate black people so much? Now, in the previous video, I explained with the help of Benjamin Friedman, who was one of the original Zionists who established the Zionist movement, the Zionist cause, for a place for displaced Jews, at least the white Jews, the fake ones, and that Germany did not wake up one day just hating people, hating wannabe Jews or white Jews, and started killing them. There was a reason behind that, and I went through some detail about that in that video, the previous video. And I also gave you the video of Benjamin Friedman, who understood and understood, well, he did now, and who understood the whys and the wherefores and the hows of this animus that Germany had for these people, and there was a legitimate reason. So, in a nutshell, no one wakes up in the morning hating anyone. That person that is hating someone, the other person did something, right? So you have to take it all in, look at the evidence, put aside your feelings and your emotions, and examine the situation as it is. not as you would like for it to be, as you would like to dream it to be, but what it is. The only people who were slaves in America were white people. That's where the word slave comes from. It comes from the Indo-European Slavic people. They have been the world's slave since the beginning. Period. King James, the founder of the 13 colonies, which were really 19 because 6 of those colonies went off and established Canada. But the 13 colonies that became America were saturated with um, white people, or as we called them at that time, but there were no white people at that point. They were called Tamahus or Yurugu. So, in essence, uh, the really only slaves in America were white people. Black people became enslaved, but that was much later. Okay. Now, everything that I'm talking about, I'm going to be talking about in detail when I do an analysis of my book, The White Man's Burden of Lies and Deceit, um, and really getting into the wheres and whys and how forth of this hate that white people have for black people. Now, I'm not going to really go into it today, um, but it's very important to understand the background of these people. And one of the indications is that King James was a black man, along with his wife, and King George and King Charles. They were black people, as well as all of the European kings and queens and royalty and the bourgeois class of that era were black people. And they despotically, despotically ruled over so-called Tamahu or clear-skinned people, or what we call today white people. King James took the skin off of their back and made his Bible book cover. The skin was also used to make door panels and whatever else at that time. This is not a joke. Black people weren't exactly holy, especially with so-called the Tamahu people. Okay, but I'm not going to really get into that as much as I would like to, but that's going to be later. So what I'm going to do now is to really get into the lies and the deceptions and the deceptive practices of white supremacy and what that is. So we're going to be taking, like I said, a couple of videos, and we're going to be slicing and dicing it and making sure that we're getting the understanding that we need in order to understand exactly how this system of white supremacy works. So the first video you're going to hear, this is the other one, the hidden DNA discovery only found in black African people. I'm going to get here to the white woman tells the truth about the manifest. But right now, we're going to go right back up here and you can see this particular video. I'm going to have to bring that up. Hold on. I'm going to have to go to share screen so that can be seen by you guys. Hold on. Allow. Okay. So now what we're going to do, we're going to take our time and we're going to really take a really good look of what happens or what had happened when white people went throughout the world and started this campaign of white supremacy. Let's get at it.
Thank you so much, Chris, for sitting with me this much anticipated philosophical discussion. I'm hoping we can explore a few things today regarding the situation in Gaza, Palestine more broadly. And one would be to try as much as possible to make philosophical sense of what's happening in Gaza, and of course Palestine more broadly, and what immoral evil committed by Israel specifically reveals about human beings, and collectively what we might be able to do about that in a way that's principled and just. So I thought I'd first start off by asking you, what is the kind of language you believe that's philosophically appropriate in the sense of the evil that we're seeing right now in Gaza?
Everything Israel does is defined by the fact that it is a settler colonial state. And while the specifics may be different from other settler colonial states, the broad outlines are the same. So you can look at the British in India, the British in Kenya, French in Algeria. The trajectory is very similar. You have, and largely in the case of Israel, which was also, of course, true in Algeria or true in Kenya, true in India, you have a foreign entity that occupies land where indigenous inhabitants have been living for centuries, millennia. And in order to justify that from the very inception, you have to lie. You create a narrative of justification that is completely specious and untrue. And that's, of course, exactly what happened in Israel. They claimed, or attempted to claim, this was Joan Peters and others, that there was no Palestinian identity, that the land was largely vacant. This, of course, was incorrect. There is an immediate demonization of the indigenous inhabitants. They're kind of subhuman. They're barbarian. They're certainly less in terms of their value. They're less than the colonists. And we talk about settlers. These are colonists. That's who they are. So initially, you try all sorts of subterfuges to make your settler colonial project work. Violence is always a part of it. But at the beginning, you attempt to buy land, you attempt to mollify a certain segment of the indigenous population to work as collaborators. That has actually worked less well in Palestine, historic Palestine, than it did in places like India, where you raise the Indian army. A lot of them, 40% of them were Sikhs, which are about 2% of the Indian population. The British were quite successful in raising a colonial police force in Kenya. That never really worked in Palestine, but that was the idea of Oslo, that they would bring Yasser Arafat, Fatah, the PLO back, and they would function as a colonial police force. It didn't work at all in Gaza. It has worked, but not very well in the West Bank. That's essentially what Mahmoud Abbas does. But eventually, the other attempts to, or all of the less coercive attempts to control the population fail, and it becomes naked force, naked violence of an escalating degree. And that's precisely what we saw through repeated assaults against Gaza. I don't like to call it a war. The Palestinians do not have mechanized units or tanks or planes or a navy or even real command and control. It's an asymmetrical force, but is no match for the industrial weapons that Israel is able to array against them. But you have escalating assaults that have now culminated in full-blown genocide.
Connected to your point on naked force, you make this very pointed insight in your piece. I just wanted to cite that I believe you published last December, titled "The Evil That Israel Does Is the Evil Israel Gets." And in it, we say the only language left, and this is verbatim left, is the language of death. It is how Israel speaks to the Palestinians. It is how the Palestinians are forced to speak back. So I'm wondering if you can expound on that and also perhaps comment on this seeming reluctance on the part of the Western media to even address that.
Well, so Israel's intent, we know from private correspondence by Ben Gurion and others, the intent was always to cleanse historic Palestine. That intent had to be denied because it, of course, would make it hard to mollify the Palestinians, and it would be hard for Israel to project the image of the only democracy in the Middle East, and making flowers bloom from the desert and all this kind of stuff that goes into Israeli mythology. But the intent was always there. So you reached a point. I think Oslo was really the moment the Palestinians realized that there would never be a peaceful solution, that Israel was not, Oslo, for viewers who don't know, in essence, was going to allow Fatah or the PLO to run. Arafat came back from Tunis from exile, would allow them to run or administer Gaza and the West Bank, but not the borders. Israel controlled all of the borders. Finally, Arafat wasn't willing to be a Quisling, and I think it was pretty good. I think most of us who cover the Middle East believe he was murdered by the Israelis, probably poisoned. The Israelis have a long history, by the way, of assassinating not just leaders in Gaza. I knew one of the founders of Hamas, Aziz Rantisi. I knew he's around, both of them assassinated by the Israelis, Abu Jihad, Tunis, etc. So that would not be out of character in any way. But after that, I think it was clear to the Palestinians that Israel had no intention, especially with the expansion of the settlements by the colonists in the West Bank, no intention of honestly attempting to create a two-state solution. Well, why doesn't the Western media respond? One part of it is they don't know the history. They haven't. I spent 7 years in the Middle East, but the other thing is the power of the Israel lobby is so intense that to state naked truth, even to use, let's talk about my old employer, the New York Times, even to use the word apartheid, use the word genocide is forbidden. And Israel has quite a large propaganda machine. Many of the people within that machine are quite well versed in American media and how it works. They speak fluent English. The Palestinians don't. That's always been a problem with the Palestinians. I've been going back decades, is that they lacked an understanding of Western systems of power and how they work. This was always a huge advantage on the part of the Zionists, the old Zionists, people like Ben Gurion, Golda Meir, Abba Eban, who I knew. They came out of Abba Eban went to Oxford. He spoke better English than I did. So they were very astute at how to manipulate Western governments. But you will still hear to this day that the Palestinians forfeited a deal on Oslo. It was never an acceptable deal. Most of the residents in Gaza are the descendants of refugees, so the right of return is key. The idea that any so-called Palestinian state would not control its own borders means that, in essence, it's under siege, whether it's a very draconian siege, which happened, of course, in Gaza after the election of Hamas, or whether it's a slightly less draconian siege in the West Bank, but they're still under siege.
To your point earlier, certainly what we're seeing play itself out so violently is colonialism. Your similar language, political language to describe what's happening. Gaza right now, but I'm wondering as a philosopher morally, what really is the principal reason that states such as Israel become so morally corrupt, and not only that, just so seemingly unrepentant for the suffering of them.
Well, because in order to maintain a settler colonial project, you it requires that you dehumanize those who are being colonized. It requires that you build vicious, militarized forces of occupation. It requires that you crush all dissent, and of course, eventually you crush internal dissent among your own, which has been happening. It requires that on a daily basis you instill fear and terror in the hearts of the subject population. This is what Israel calls deterrence, which is just massive use of firepower to kill indiscriminately.
Let me stop it right here. We are getting into the real nuts and bolts of what has been going on in Israel and every place else on the globe that these so-called Palestinian white people have gone to establish their pulleys and levers of white supremacy and establishing their roots in that particular area or country or what have you, to dehumanize, to demoralize, to miseducate, to have a deterrence of violence through violence of any dissent. And the idea is quite clear. Death is on the menu for white supremacists and white superiority. Excuse me. And so, as you can see in the Middle East and what's going on, this has been the game that's been played. You have good white Jews and the bad Jews, and the good white Jews or good white people in America or around the world, wherever they were, placated to the population and like, well, I'm not prejudiced. I didn't do it. I didn't have any slaves. I didn't kill anybody. Why are you looking at me? I don't have to pay reparations. I didn't have any slaves. Well, the sins of the father and mother are visited upon their children and the present day people. Always, ALWAYS, and always, ALLWAYS. We're going to get into that as well. So I just want to make that little note, and we'll go right back to the video right now.
And that has an incredibly corrupting influence on the society itself. It empowers the worst elements of the society: military, the security forces, the secret police, and they kind of metastasize within the society until they run it. So, I mean, what we have seen now in Israel is a shift from liberal Zionism, although I don't think liberal Zionism is any less violent to the Palestinians than religious Zionism, but it's been replaced now by this religious messianic Zionism, which is in some ways, it's better because they're more open about the genocide that they want to commit. I mean, the plethora of Israeli statements that come from Israeli leaders on, slaughtering everyone in Gaza. They've been that would have not happened under liberal Zionism. I'm careful about what they said. So it is a very corrosive process. And again, you can go back and look at the effects of it upon the French in Algeria or the British in Kenya. It's the same. Especially when the indigenous inhabitants seek to use violence against you, then it's the savagery is almost beyond belief. I was in Sarajevo during the war, and we were surrounded by the Serbs. We were shelled with maybe 300 to 400 shells a day. That resulted in about 4 to 5 dead a day and about 2 dozen a day. Well, you have to juxtapose that with Gaza, where you have hundreds of wounded and dead a day, just to, again, highlight the scale of the kind of carpet bombing, shelling that's taking place. Gaza is a tiny place. It's only 20 miles long and 5 miles wide. Everything has been decimated. There are no universities are gone. Almost the entire healthcare system has been destroyed. There's no clean water, et cetera, et cetera. So, and that's what happens in the end with settler colonial projects, including our own in the United States. What did we do after the Battle of the Little Bighorn, when City Bull and Crazy Horse and the others wiped out the 7th Cavalry? It was just completely scorched earth until I think it was 1890, where it wounded me, and they're setting up Gatling guns. They're setting up machine guns to mow down indigenous people who were not. They may have had arms, but they weren't. There was no conflict. Just mowed them down. So that's what happens. I mean, the difference is settler colonial projects can work when you eradicate the indigenous population, eradicate about 90% of indigenous Americans. That can't happen in Israel because you have such a large number of Palestinians in the diaspora. I may have the numbers mixed up, but I think it's about 5.6 Gaza, and I think I'm correct. But anyway, it isn't going to work. But that is the intent. The intent is to create a humanitarian crisis of such catastrophic proportions in Gaza that the only choice is death or deportation. That's what Israel is doing. Will that happen? I don't know. That's clearly the intent. And that's what settler colonial projects do.
Mentioned for liberal Zionism, whether the sure that actually exists, is that philosophically a contradiction of terms to you?
Well, it is, but it certainly did exist because there was a battle between Jabotinsky and Herut, and these, Jabotinsky was praised by Mussolini as a fascist. I think he called him a good fascist. The Herut Party, which Bibi Netanyahu's father was a member, I think a founding member of, and they came out of a lot of the Jewish terrorist groups that attacked both the British and the Palestinians, but they called for the complete ethnic cleansing of Palestine. I was in Jerusalem when Rabbi Meir Kahane, this very right-wing, racist rabbi, founded the Koch Party. Well, the liberal Zionists banned the Koch Party from running in elections. And what we're seeing now in Israel, these are the heirs of Kahane, heirs of the Koch Party. So liberal Zionism was always oxymoronic in a sense that you can't maintain a settler colonial project and claim to espouse liberal values, but it's quite effective in seducing the West. And that's really was its main benefit for Israel. They could speak in the language of democracy and human rights, etc., even at the very moment they were running an apartheid state.
Equally, because this should have been earlier, the uprisings that we're seeing in support of Palestine globally. So there is that support, there's that growing solidarity, but there's this issue of governments, especially in the West, not intervening enough. And I'm wondering if this failure continues, what is at stake, or what are the consequences for our shared humanity beyond, but notwithstanding the situation in Gaza?
Well, first I would draw parallels between the way Israel operates and the way the United States operates. So Israel will bomb a consulate in Damascus and kill Iranian leaders. Israel will carry out strikes in Lebanon against Hezbollah leaders. The United States does the same thing. It carries out what are, in essence, acts of war against countries in which technically we're not at war. Israel does that all the time. The United States does that all the time. And that is trying to solidify a global order, where international law and international rules are irrelevant. I think that's why you've seen such a strong reaction, especially in the global south. The only country that is active in attempting to halt the genocide is Yemen. I don't think that's accidental. You had 30,000 Yemenis starved to death. You had cholera epidemics. I mean, they were under that U.S.-Saudi siege. So it's very close to home historically in terms of memory. But it's also within the memory of many countries in the South that have endured the savage colonial settler projects. I don't think it's accidental that South Africa brought the case to the International Court of Justice because, again, historically, they were an apartheid state. They lived in conditions very, very similar to the conditions the Palestinians live under. Yes, we have seen reaction on the one hand by particularly the global South, countries that see in the suffering of Palestinians their own historical suffering. But we've also seen an utter refusal on the part of the United States and Israel to do anything meaningful in terms of halting the genocide. I don't think at this point there was much credible argument against this live streamed genocide. So, and I think that part of the fear in the global South is that as we suffer from the climate crisis and crop yields decline and floodings and mass migrations, etc., these rogue, unaccountable forces of the global North will react kind of savagery that we're seeing in Gaza. I think it presages a kind of savagery, and that is fearful. It's fearful to me, and it's fearful to much of the world.
So to your point on savagery that we're witnessing, you did see this firsthand in Gaza as a journalist, and I'm wondering how that's informed or transformed your thinking about what you believe are things that are required to effectively oppose the kind of brutality that Israel inflicts on such a colossal scale.
Well, I spent a lot of time covering conflicts in Latin America. Covered the war in El Salvador for 5 years. Covered the war in Bosnia, out of Sarajevo, etc. So there are moments when you oppress a population to such an extent that the only option they have left is violence, especially when the forces arrayed against you are seeking your own annihilation. This was true in Sarajevo. I mean, we were surrounded by the Serbs, pounded shells, sniper fire constantly, and nobody had long discussions about pacifism because we were actually surrounded in trenches. I mean, there were trench systems around the city, and if the Serbs broke through those trenches and burst in the city, they would slaughter a third of the inhabitants and drive the rest into refugee or displacement camps. And that wasn't conjecture. That's what they did in the Drina Valley. That's what, so we knew what they were going to do. But at that point, you pick up a gun. It doesn't save you from the poison of violence. Violence is always tragic. But that's really where the Palestinians have been left. They've not been given any other option. That was Israel's choice. That was not their choice. In fact, if you look closely at the historical record, when the Palestinians, like the Great March of Return, or any time they attempt to build nonviolent resistance movements, they actually, Israel is even more violent in terms of killings and shootings than they are, because I think they fear, because that nonviolent movement will resonate widely throughout the world. So yeah, this was Israel's decision. I don't like it. I've been around enough violence to detest it, but I also understand that there are times, and this is one of them, when the oppressive power shuts down all the other options, and that's what Israel's done.
Since October 7th alone,
Let me stop it right here. What is so prevalent in all of what has been said up until now is the, how you want to put that, is the preciseness and the predictability on the part of those who are part impartial, or the initiator of this settler colonial process game that they're playing. First, they buy the land, or they try to buy the land, and they try to be um, friendly, to say the least of it. If that doesn't work, then the whole process of dehumanizing and humiliating the the the, uh, the population, whether that be black people in America or black people wherever they went. They put this particular process in play and made it uh, a part of their plan in order to establish them at the top and other people fall in place at the bottom. Very interesting. Uh, Demonic, satanic, evil, because at the end of the day, people like the Palestinians have no other choice but to strike back. Your back is against the wall. What other choices, as Chris Hedges was saying, that a person has in order to combat, defend, and to overcome what has been brought to their land, to their women, to their children, to their culture, to their future prosperity. There is none. And they have no other choice, no other recourse but to kill. But let's go on back and finish up the video.
But we're seeing since October 7th alone just a great deal of critique of Western media, including those outlets or publications that, at least within much of the public imagination, or are regarded as the progressive outlets. And I think it's any secret to say that the New York Times is one of those. And I'm wondering, in your view, whether the failure to provide robust accounts of what's happening in Gaza is not only not providing a full picture to the public of the scale of people that Israel's committing, but is somehow facilitating that violence or even genocide.
Well, first of all, the New York Times has never been good on Israel. It's not like there was a moment in the past when they were good on Israel. Just as an example, and I spent 7 years covering, because I speak Arabic, I was primarily in Gaza and the West Bank. I did some coverage inside Israel, but actually not very much. And the way they would neutralize a story out of Gaza, so I'm on the ground in Gaza. Israel carries out an airstrike. I go to, let's say, Jabalia. I count the bodies. But every other paragraph is the Israeli Defense Force spokesperson countering what I've reported on the ground. So by the time you get to the article, you can believe whatever you want to believe. It neutralizes the reporting. That was not something I experienced, for instance, in Bosnia. I didn't experience that. But Israel's different. They replay October 7th endlessly. I'm not in any way taking away the tragedy and even atrocities that were committed, without question. But it becomes a way to justify the genocide. And of course, they invent these salacious stories, beheaded babies and women who were raped, except they weren't raped. I mean, it's just on and on and on, as a way to turn, or at least publicly attempt to turn the Palestinians into subhumans and animals, into barbarians. And they do that, again, to justify the attacks on hospitals and schools and mosques by claiming that Hamas uses Palestinians as human shields, therefore they have a right to carry out a siege against Al Shifa. I mean, so it's unfortunately, all of that, those narratives are picked up by the press, and let's never forget that the Israelis have blocked foreign journalists from going into Gaza, and they have mounted a very aggressive campaign to target and assassinate Palestinian journalists, including Turkish. Somebody who was working for Turkish television lost their leg. So, but that's all part of an attempt to essentially shut down the counter narrative so that they can dominate. The foreign press is culpable. I mean, they're complicit. New York Times especially is complicit. I mean, they ran this big story on systematic sexual assault and rape that, when it was picked apart, just turned out to be complete fabrication. They also, by the way, ran a podcast a few years ago called The Caliphate, which was based on a testimony of a con artist who wasn't even there. I mean, but it plays to that narrative. Ever since 9/11, Muslims in the United States have been really demonized, and the things that within public discourse is somehow acceptable to say about Muslims can't be said about anyone else. But yeah, Israel has done a pretty good job of controlling the press coverage. It's changing perhaps a little bit because of the courage of the Palestinian reporters, because of social media. These images are, shocking and hard to deny. But yeah, the New York Times has just done an appallingly awful job of covering this. And of course, writing editorials denouncing calls for a ceasefire.
On the one hand, you have what seems like part of the establishment that has invested itself in covering social justice movements in many cases, but on this one issue, it's the total opposite. So I'm wondering what that says about the Western establishment of the Western.
Well, so I wouldn't describe the New York Times as progressive. I would describe it as liberal. But first of all, it's a Cold War liberalism. So it embraces American militarism. The New York Times gave its full-throated support for the invasion of Iraq, which I publicly opposed and was pushed out of the paper for opposing in public arenas. It's cheerled the war in Ukraine, Libya, Afghanistan, everywhere else. So it's very much works as a propaganda arm of American militarism. It is willing to cover social movements like Black Lives Matter as long as it does not investigate the corporate state, the corporate coup d'etat that has taken place. I mean, if you read the New York Times, you would think everybody supports Donald Trump because they're bigots, racists, or what Hillary Clinton calls deplorables. Not because since 1996, that's when records started being kept, 30 million American workers have lost their jobs in mass layoffs. And that's the engine behind Trump. I know because I've written books and reported on it. But they won't go there because they're advertisers. They depend on those advertisers. They are essentially organs that refuse to look at the gross distortions within the American economy and the political system that have been caused by corporations and this billionaire class, private equity firms, etc. So they are quite happy or willing to write about race, but not from an economic perspective, solely from a social perspective. And in terms of foreign policy, they buy into that narrative that we're going to liberate the women of Afghanistan on the 101st Airborne, which is absurd for anybody who's been around the 101st Airborne as I have. So again, I would go back to liberal Zionism. I would say that there's a kind of cognitive dissonance between the supposed liberal values that liberal Zionists espouse or that liberal values that corporatists espouse. Because as soon as you start talking about economic justice, like Bernie Sanders did, then they destroy you. And the New York Times was, remember, very, very hostile to Bernie Sanders. Again, I think it's a liberal patina, but I don't think it's real. I don't think it, because the fundamental concerns that have impoverished, let's say, people within our internal colonies, as Malcolm X called them, Those are not addressed, or the issue of mass incarceration. We have the largest prison system in the world. 25% of the world's prisoners were less than 5% of the world's population. Why? Because in these impoverished urban, blighted urban areas, there's no work. And so if the work doesn't knit, you don't have a job or a place in the society that knits you to that society, gives you a stake in that society, which is a form of social control, as Tarkhan points out. And so therefore, you find other forms of social control, which are militarized police and a carceral state.
It's in moments like this that it becomes apparent that those who identify as liberals still seem to have no problem invading other countries with war, colonialism, all these things that perhaps on the surface you would not expect when you hear a liberal speak about democracy, universal values. I think the word you used, cognitive dissonance, is very appropriate here, because when you really see it for what it is, it's very disenchanting. So my last question to you is whether you think states like Israel have passed the point of no return, or they're beyond moral redemption. What has to be done to hold them accountable at this point? And again, in a way that is principled, according to
Well, Israel, since its inception, has always violated international law, and is violating it now. I don't think there's any going back. I think Israel has been exposed for what it is. I don't think the mythology of Israel, the mystique of Israel, I don't think anyone's going to buy it anymore. It is a naked, brutal, repressive, racist, apartheid state, and most of the world has figured that out. Now, that doesn't mean, especially with the backing of the United States, it can't hang around for a long time. But I would say that younger generation, and especially among younger Jews in the United States, they don't have that emotional bond that their parents and grandparents have to Israel or to Zionism. That's gone. And that's why Israel is working so fervently to build ties with the Christian right. I wrote a book called American Fascists, the Christian Right and the War in America. I think they are fascists, and I'm a divinity school graduate. I don't use the word fascist lightly, but I have seen how they have distorted the Bible, the same way the German Christian church under the Nazis distorted the Bible, sacralized state power, and most importantly, white supremacy. So the Christian right is predominantly white, again, drawing from that dispossessed working class. They have this kind of dream of a return to a golden era, which was probably never golden, but that's what happens when people are pushed out of the society. And they see, remember, the people who run Israel are of European descent. Bibi Netanyahu, in particular, was raised in Philadelphia, went to MIT. So that white supremacy, which they embrace within their own movement, they see reflected in the Zionist project, because this is really a battle between European colonists and people of color. So where is it going? I think in the long term, I mean, the moment the United States refuses to back Israel, it's going to have a very hard time surviving. And this is one of the tragedies of the genocide. I think it's up to 68% now of munitions to sustain this genocide come from the States and are pouring in. Biden is not going to change that, because the Israel lobby is very powerful in the United States and doesn't want to alienate. But yeah, once the United States begins to back away, which may take a generation, it's going to be harder and harder for Israel to sustain itself.
So much discussion. Important philosophical context. I'm wondering, any final observations or insights? Sure.
No, I mean, I'm very involved in the boycott, divestment, and sanction movement. I think we have to employ the same techniques that we to isolate apartheid regime. South Africa to isolate and sanction the apartheid regime. I spent a lot of time attempting to do that.
Very great discussion.
Okay, thanks.
Wow, guys, wow. That's the first video, but let me give you my thoughts on it. Let me get out of here. We're gonna stop the sharing of that and go back to the sharing in a minute. Which Hedges is just being matter of fact about white supremacy and the game they play and making their moves upon the world wherever they may be, whether it's India, whether it's Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, America, with the indigenous Indian population, how they took control of that, the Gatling gun. Death is on the table with these people. There's no end, there's no end, there's no but. There's no friendly gesture. There's no humanity. There's no patience. There's no morality. There's no empathy. None of that. It's all about the gun. It's all about the death that they can cause. And it's all about the resources that they can take and steal and use and pass down to future generations. I am still blown away. I'm going to, at some point in the near future, really take apart and analyze what was said and how it done, so I can have a repeated note, not a repeated note, but a note where I can repeat what this means, these colonial settler state, and what they do to make sure that they stay in control, and how they do that maliciously, viciously, and without a care in the world. So right now I'm going to go back to the YouTube. Let me put that back on the share screen. There we go. So the next one, let me see. Oh, let me go back. So we through with that one. And so the next one is, I wanted to do this one, but let me see how this is going to run, because I really wanted to make sure that it matches and it comes together nicely with the understanding of what it's all about. Let me see. So I am going to play these two videos. This is 10 minutes and this is 9 minutes. We're going to make a connection here.
Estamos ante el partido más importante de la República Dominicana.
We're just going to let this play through. It's only about 11 minutes long, I think. Yeah, 10 minutes long. So hold on.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. So I have something very, very interesting I'm going to be sharing with you guys. Those of you on this channel know about these sorts of things, but I want you all to listen at something very, very detailed. For doing that, I want to ask you to share this video, like the channel if you haven't already, or should I say subscribe to the channel and like the video. And of course, if you want to continue to be notified whenever we upload or go live, click on the notification bell. That way you'll be alerted when upload or go live. So anyway, let's get into what we're going to be talking about this video. This white woman here, she's going to tell the truth about the manifest that was used to brainwash and destroy so-called black people worldwide. Now, some of you all don't believe that such a thing exists, but it is the truth. And so many have been saying it for so long. But if you can't see the proof in the pudding by the manifestation of what happens in the Black community worldwide, I don't know what to say. The proof is in the pudding. Anyway, she's going to break it down, but this is only the tip of the iceberg. This is only a snippet. This is only a small portion of what is happening. This is the watered down, light-hearted version of reality. Of all of the traps and snares that have been laid, the stumbling blocks, the whole 9 yards. Anyway, if you want to understand why the path of the majority of the Black population worldwide has been littered with stumbling blocks, take a listen at this. Of course, you know I will be right back.
The best way to gain control of the most intelligent, powerful species on the planet would be to completely divide them from the love within themselves. As soon as they are old enough to begin creating an understanding of who they are, force them into a system that teaches them that it is wrong to be yourself if yourself is different from what is accepted as normal. Confuse them about their own biological makeup so that they think that permanently altering their body is the answer to happiness. Require their daily attendance at an institution that makes them focus only on the information that is provided. Make them attend that institution from age 5 until an adult and repeatedly test them on the information so that it becomes their truth. Give them an explanation to everything so that they never have a chance to make their own assumptions of the world. Scold them and humiliate them if they suggest an opinion that opposes that of their authorities. Keep reminding them of how cruel their ancestors were to each other in the past and broadcast how cruel they are to each other in the present. Only show them tragedies on the news so that they live in fear and think the worst of one another. Convince them that their species used to be that of an incognizant wild animal. Make them think that their very existence is so incredibly random that they lack purpose and struggle to make sense of a creator. Tell them that their kind is as smart as they've ever been so that they don't question the integrity of the system that they're in. Provide them idols with artificial beauty and use them as examples of what it is to look perfect so that they are never content with their own appearance and can't help but to compare themselves amongst each other. Create addictive digital platforms that rank them by numbers so that they base their self-worth off of the amount of followers that they have and are never satisfied. Build a society around them in which those who have money benefit and those who don't fail. Make money their main focus, but make it so difficult to accumulate that they remain in a place of constant struggle, forced to dedicate the majority of their time to the system that made it this way. Tax them in every way possible, but tell them that it's for their own benefit so that they don't think twice about paying it. Take so much of their time and energy throughout the week, but give them 2 days to themselves so that they feel a sense of reward and don't fight back. Promote the consumption of poison in every social setting so that even on those 2 days, they remain disconnected from themselves and each other. Pump their food with excess sugars and addictive chemicals, but make it cheap, advertised, and easily accessible so that they never stop consuming. When their food makes them ill, prescribe them medication that only masks the symptoms so that they become dependent on it every day. Charge them so much money for healthcare so that they stay in a constant loop of consuming, medicating, and working. Cause chaos amongst them and blame it on a group of their own so that they form judgmental stereotypes. Turn them against each other in so many ways so that even if they were to connect on one, they would still be divided by another.
Are you looking to establish your business using an address other than
Sorry
your home?
about that.
Wish you had a
Okay, so can you get any more clear than that? Let the truth be told. Can you get any more clear than that? Now, this young lady said a mouthful, but again, that is only a snippet of the reality of how bad things are. The traps have been laid. The stumbling blocks litter the paths of Black people worldwide. There has been a massive effort to do exactly what we see happening today. The brainwashing is off the chain. It's to the point where those who have been oppressed try to fight for the oppressor. They side with the oppressor. They hate one another but love the one who divided everyone. Interesting. They carved up Africa and passed it out to one another, and they continue to drain the resources from Africa and come up with any and every reason to justify these actions. This woman in the video, she made it very clear. Those who don't want to believe the truth. They just want to remain blind and live in the land of make believe, live in the land of la la land, just to get by. While these things continue to happen, there has been much effort made to do exactly what she has said. Now, I want to share a scripture with you. I want you all to understand. It was prophesied. There is nothing new under the sun. Nothing new under the sun. This was prophesied. So take a look at this passage. In Psalms 83, verses 2 through 5, it says, "For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may no longer be in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee." Okay, let's continue on. Verse 6. It says the tabernacles of Edom. Now it's naming all of these different nations who came together to do exactly what we see that's been done to so-called black people. Tabernacles of Edom, Ishmaelites, Moab, Hagarness, Gebal, Ammon, Amalek, Philistines, Tyre. That's a lot of people. Asher also was joined in with them. Assur. They have hope in the children of Lot, Selah. Do unto them as unto the Midianites, as the Sisera, as the Jabin, as the brook of Kison. So I want you to understand something. That's a lot of nations. And this is why it's important to know who is who in the Bible. See, they don't want you to know who Edom is, or who the Ishmaelites are, or who Moab is, or who the Hagarness is. They don't want you to know who these people are, Gebal, Ammon, Amalek, the Philistines. Because if you know who the people are, you can better understand biblical prophecy. As long as you are in the dark about who is who, then you don't understand what's happening and why it's happening. You believe the narrative that's presented to you. Like this woman said in the video, just go by what's been told to you, right? So you have a group of people who came after everybody. They decided, no, we're going to be the ones to tell you who you are, who that person is, and where you're from. They left it up to themselves to say what is what in the world. And this is why everybody is so brainwashed. But it's always interesting to hear folks tell the truth about what their ancestors have done and what they continue to do. Always interesting to hear the truth on these matters. Anyway, I'm done with this video, y'all. Chop it up in the comment section. As always, keep it tight and keep it right. But until next time, I'm out.
Now that video is a play on the other video with Chris Hedges. And what they do, it is methodical, it is on purpose, it is without a doubt a plan. Our school system teaches us about black people being slave, not the slave master. Let me say that again. The history books of America and the world included paint black people or brown-skinned people as being less than so-called pale-skinned people or white people, and they never admit the fact that white people or the Tamahus or the Yorugas were and have always been the slave to black people. As I have said before, the word slave comes from the Slavic Indo-European people. That's it. Black people in America were enslaved, but never slaves, and not to the tens of millions of slaves either. As a matter of fact, Virginia was the very first state that disallowed black people from buying white people. Anyway, we're going to continue on, and we're going to be bringing up different facts and receipts of what really happened in America and around the world, and how they play the game of lies and deceit and deceptive practices that involve violence, that involve deception in regard to the information about the uh, uh, population that they are invading and want to take over. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back and look at the video. It's really short on what I want to do. Hold on. And it involved a young lady of Palestine, I believe she is from, and how she destroys. Oh no, I'm sorry, it's 9 minutes long, and how she destroys Israel. So let's go on ahead and look at that right now.
Comienza tu camino hoy con GoDaddy. Si puedes imaginarlo, puedes construirlo, sea cual sea.
Young woman said, how on earth can you cry victim when you go into a country's whole region?
I'm sorry. Let's start it over.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. Well, again, I have some more truth for you guys. It is just coming so fast we can barely keep up with it. So we know where this all is headed. We know where it's going to end up. The truth is like a wildfire that cannot and will not be contained. So anyway, you have this Middle Eastern woman here. She was given 2 minutes to speak, and she chose to use her 2 minutes to drop another truth, BOMB. Okay, so she's a Middle Eastern woman, and she says that America supports so-called Jews because they look like them. I want you all to take a listen at her, give her explanation, and of course, you know I will be right back.
2 minutes. What am I to do with all this time? Allow me to point out that you are supporting Israel solely for the reason that they look like you. Light hair, light eyes. We all know that the only people who successfully get to cry victim are people who look like that. Keep in mind that Israel is in the Middle East, where the population of surrounding countries look like me and a majority of the people in this room. Kind of makes you wonder, right? How did those people get there? The same way you all got here. Slaughtering natives, stealing land, and claiming it as your own. And one day, we will receive the same pitiful reparations and apologies that were given to the Native Americans, African Americans, Vietnamese, Holocaust victims, and the list goes on and on and on and on, because we continue to repeat history instead of learning from it. Do you mind? Thank you. I don't want apologies. I want preventative measures and empathy at the very least, but even that seems too much to ask for. Ceasefire now.
Okay. Did we just hear this young woman say that the people that over in that Middle Eastern stronghold right now got there the same way that the people got here in America? She said they got here by slaughtering the natives, stealing land, and doing all kinds of other things. She said that's how they got here in America, right? And that's what they've done all over the planet. This is what this young lady is saying. This is how you do it. You go in, you take the land, you take the people, you take the resources, and then you use your history books, your power, your influence to paint the people of the region as some type of savage, terrorist, or whatever. This is what she is pretty much saying. And you get to cry victim, though. Oh my goodness. Exhausting it is. trying to blow the lid off of all of this stuff. It is very exhausting because this stuff you see it happening right before your own eyes. Live and in living color, you are seeing this happen. But these same people don't care. They say, as long as we never admit it, we can still pretend like to know what people are talking about when they say we cry victim, right? I continue to say the so-called black people have the receipts to show, right? We have history on our side. We have truth on our side. We have the evidence. We have the news reports, right? We even have the unearthed, dug up stories that who tried to hide. The people we're talking about now, they tried to hide all of these stories. They did. It's really a shame that there are people in this country who don't know about Black Wall Street. But they don't know about Rosewood. They don't know about Red Summer. They don't know about all of these things, or at least they pretend not to, right? They don't know about all of the strange fruit hanging from the tree, from the poplar tree, or at least they pretend not to know. It is utterly amazing when you have such privilege that your life is so pristine that you can just tiptoe through the tulips. You can go and sip on your tea and crumpets while other people try to sort through the trauma that they have lived through for so long. While other people try to navigate through all of the pitfalls, the stumbling blocks, the stones that have been rolled out, the fiery darts that are taking aim. Everybody else have to navigate through all of that while you tiptoe through the tulips, pretending like you don't know what's going on this planet. Very interesting indeed. And you get hot and bothered when people talk about these kinds of things. You don't like it. It bothers you. It ruffles your feathers. How dare they talk about what we've done and the fact that we play and cry victim. She's saying that the American way is to cry victim. It really tripped me out that even Candace Owens had the nerve to say that white men are the most oppressed men in America. Oh, or persecuted, oppressed or persecuted, one of those. And I said, how on earth can a so-called black woman fix her mouth to say such a thing? But when you look at George Floyd, you don't see him as a man who was a victim of this system. How backwards is that? This is ridiculous what we see happening, but it was prophesied. I have to bring that to remembrance. Just like that prophecy was fulfilled, the rest of it, there's another part to it, right? Those who have done these things are going to have to reap what they have sown, according to the judgments of the Most High. He is going to see to it that they reap what they sow. So you can't get away with anything. The Most High is fair. He's righteous. So ain't no getting away with anything. Everybody's going to have to give an account for the deeds done in their bodies. The sins, the wrongdoing, any unrepented sin you've got to give an account for. If you can't fix your mouth and your heart to repent, then there's no forgiveness. Now notice I said your mouth and your heart. Because the Most High says some people serve him with their lips, but their hearts are far from it. So if you can't find repentance in your heart, you are finished. It's a done deal. It's a wrap. And I'm saying that as a warning because if you don't have it, you need to seek it fast. And you can't seek repentance if you can't even acknowledge the wrong that you've done or continue to do. That's a part of it. The Bible says that you have to confess your sins. And he is faithful and just to forgive them. So anyway, I am done with this. It's yet another truth unveiling video. Truth is what it is. Like this young woman said, how on earth can you cry victim when you go into countries, whole regions of the world, snatch land, you snatch people, you snatch resources, and then you pretend like you're the victim and that those people somehow deserve the treatment that you gave them? What kind of wedico mind is that? Anyway.
You heard it here. this is playing on the video, the very first video with Chris Hedges. It's intentional. It's diabolic. It's a planned takeover, and they care not about the indigenous population that are there, like the Palestinians, and they dehumanize them for a reason, to make them less than, so that the killing of them appear to be the right course or avenue or road to take. Because now, as the new colonists come into the area, they, based upon world opinions, they have the right to do it because they so-called bought the land, so-called tended the land, so-called developed the land. So now the indigenous people who are there have no right to say anything because they're benefiting. Even though the colonists who are there are getting 90% or 95% of the resources and or profits and or goods and services that are being produced by them after the land has been taken. Ain't that a big? So this is really, truly how the levers and pulleys of white supremacy work. They work in tandem with the military, in tandem with the political elements, and in tandem with the economic uh, power that they have. And these so-called white Jews have power in the media, in the politics, in the political area with IPOC in the United States. And they understand the bell whistles of the press, and they have connections with the press, with the media, with the social uh, mediums that we have now, like Facebook, TikTok, and the others. But you know what? A lot of that is being curtailed and being swung right back into their faces, thinking that they have control, but it is waking people up, and that's rather whether that's TikTok, whether that's Instagram, you name it. The ideology and the deceptive practices of white supremacy is being exposed, and I'm hoping that this video will give more clarity. I don't know how much clarity, but I took the time to find the video that play upon what Chris Hedges were talking about and how it's important to stand as one against this dreaded beast, this killing machine, this animal acting like a human being. It is truly a thought to behold, a thought to be thought, a way of life that is not good, that is not congruous with humanity overall gist of empathy, because there is no empathy with the people. So we're gonna go on. We're gonna look at another video. Find it right quick, and here it is. This is 8 minutes, almost 9 minutes long. And as you can see, this is a white woman blew the lid off and exposed the truth. So we're gonna take a look at that, and I will be right back.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. Right now, it seems like a lot of people are getting this spiritual nudge to just open their mouths and speak the truth. It's like the truth is coming forward so fast you can barely keep up with it. And it's coming from many different directions. Like I said, it feels like there's a spiritual nudging happening right now. I'm going to be sharing with you this message that this woman just spoke. She just blew the lid off of the whole thing, right? And she sums it up very nicely in a very short amount of time, right? She just tells you what's happening in this world. And she touches on the fact that some people pretend like they don't know what the heck's happening, right? But they really do. They try to pretend like they don't know what's happening, but they really do know what's happening, right? So, anyway, take a listen. Take a listen at what she's saying here. And of course, I will be right back.
Only reason that white people in the United States or anywhere we are in Europe, in Africa, in Australia, in Israel, wherever we are the colonizers. We are the colonizers, and we live at the expense of the assault, Europe's assault on Africa, the kidnapping of African human beings, the trafficking, all of these things that we hear today. This is where it came from. Hundreds of years of assaulting and stealing everything that African people and Africa as a continent had, and putting it into the hands of white people. And so this is why, as the chairman has said, the true class struggle, the true working class in the world is the African and colonized working class, not white people, because all white people, and you know this is true, you and I know this is true by just living our lives and seeing it. All white people sit on the pedestal, on the backs of African and indigenous people. And, the statistics are that even poor white people have an easier ability in a crisis to raise $3,000 in an emergency than middle-class African people do. Yeah. Because we live in social wealth.
Yeah. Okay, so just like I said, this woman just blew the lid off of the whole thing. Now, this information she just shared, we already know. I believe the world already knows it as well. But of course, you have those who want to pretend like they don't know what has happened. She pretty much explained how they have gone into every continent where Black people were, and they have taken the resources, they've taken the power, they've colonized, ruled over people, right? What she said cannot be denied. We have seen this happen throughout the world, throughout history. Now, she doesn't sound like she's speaking about it in a prideful way. She's explaining what has happened. And she's basically saying that this is an injustice. This is an injustice that has taken place. And again, you have those who want to pretend like nothing is wrong. It is my belief, and it sounds like her belief as well, that so-called white people know exactly what has happened in this world. That even a poor white person has a better chance at getting some type of help or assistance in troubled times than a person who has more than them, a person that's middle class and Black. She's basically saying that the playing field is not level, but you have those who want to pretend that it is. Now, I always like to bring it back to biblical prophecy. The scripture tells us, and I must reiterate because I see from time to time I get testimonies of those who were not aware of these things. Coming out of Christianity, we were taught one way, we were taught to believe a way that's totally opposite of what the scripture says. But the Bible clearly tells us that we, as the children of Israel, the 12 tribes, are going to be hated of all nations, right? And that we would be treated a certain way, that there will be no regard for the old or the young, right? It says that in the lands of our captivity, that we wouldn't find any ease. So many biblical passages outlined what our existence would be in these lands where we have been dispersed, right? And so, what this lady is saying basically testifies not just the condition of the 12 tribes, but the global melanated community. More specifically, I'm going to say the global so-called Black community, because you do have other regions of the world, like in India, you do have dark-skinned people, but they definitely do not identify as so-called Black people, right? And so, that being said, the truth is really coming forward. So many people from so many different walks of life, so many different religious backgrounds, men, women, old and young, are starting to come forward with the truth. And I believe that the Most High is doing this revealing. He's doing this revealing so that those who have had their eyes closed for so long can truly see and gain some understanding as to why things are happening the way they are happening. Certain things that were spoken of biblically wouldn't be understood if you don't understand who the people are. When you begin to connect the dots and say, okay, so this is the history of this group of people, that is the history of that group of people. This is going to be the outcome or the summation of it all. When you begin to sort through all of this, things start to make more sense when you read the Bible. Some things don't make sense when you read certain passages. It becomes lost in translation. But when you begin to put the pieces together, even if it's a piece as small as this, with this woman revealing what has happened in this world and how they have been the colonizers, right? When all of these things and all these pieces come together, biblical prophecy begins to make more and more sense. Keep on living. You're going to get more and more pieces of the puzzle. And then before long, it will all make sense. Anyway, I'm done with this video. Thank you for tuning in. Until the next video, leave your comments, share and like this video. As always, keep it tight and keep it right.
All right, we're about done, but what I really want to try to focus in on now, because we're running up against the time, I think we're going to extend it a little bit longer. We're at the hour and 27-minute mark, right? So what we're going to do, or at least what I'm going to talk about right now, is the fact that history determines how you walk, how you talk, what you see, and what you feel. And if it is based on lies and deceit, you're going to walk kind of crooked. You're not even going to walk like a rational human being. You're just not. You're not going to be able to think correctly, speak correctly, and act correctly. Because that's the road to manifesting what you want to do in your life. Think it first, you speak it into existence, and then you put a plan into action. Faith without work is dead. And so what we are looking at now and what we are living in now, let me put it that way, is the fact that we are living in a matrix of white people based on their lying asses and their deceptive practices, intentional degradation, intentional deception, intentional lying, intentional. Everything is intentional to make it look as if they are the superior people and brown-skinned people are not. I don't think I have to explain that to you. I'm pretty sure if you're old enough, you have experienced some level of white supremacy, white superiority in action, and all its wannabe regalia. But the idea is too that the table do turn. That pride comes before the fall, and that white people have not read that notation or news on the wall. They just have not. They actually believe that their shit does not stink. They actually believe that somehow, some way, that they can escape the the repercussions of what they've done globally. Now, I have said this before on on um, on previous shows, and let me stop this for a second. On previous shows, that the law of karma is in effect. It doesn't matter whether you're white, whether you're black, whether you're this, whether you're that. If you do wrong, wrong will come back to you. It has always been like that and will always be like that. Why? Because evil and those who partake in it will be destroyed by it, always, ALWAYS, and in always, ALLWAYS. No ifs, no ands, no buts. If you are participating in the devilish ways of life, which are the 7 deadly sins: greed, gluttony, sloth, envy, pride, wrath, and lust, you can only run for so long before it catches up to you. It has always caught up to the people who have done wrong. There's a price you pay for that, for your own life and for the lives of future generations. And the sins of the father and mother, the parents, will always be visited upon their children. It never fails. You either want to be blessed or you want to be cursed. You either want to be stupid or you want to be intelligent. Either you want to be wise or you want to be a fool. There's only 2 ways to go. You either want to learn the hard way or the easy way. And white people, as we know the children of ours to be today, they have a tidal wave of hate coming back to them, and it's already not will come back, but it is coming back, and it is getting harder and harder and harder to deal with, to the point where they are committing suicide, to the point where they're so caught up in their own aggrandizement, their pride, they can't see the forest before the trees, their own demise. Either they're totally in denial of it, or they don't want to face the music. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. History has spelled it out. When you do wrong, wrong comes back to you. It always has been that way. It always will be that way. There's no and, there's no if, there's no but, there's no arguing with it, there's no pity, there's no I'm sorry. Because white people are not sorry. They keep doing it. They keep doing it because there's no accountability. And when there's no accountability, you have it in your mind, your sick, psychologically bent, psychopathically psychological and psychopathic mentality that you can do what you want to do because I'm white and I say so. You can do what you want to do because I write the laws, policies, and regulations of this land that we live in. No, it doesn't work that way. Because you know what? If the playing field was level in America, black people would be dominating it in every aspect: political, economic, spiritual. But due to the fact that these so-called white people, these children of ours of today and going forward, they really don't know what the hell they're doing. They don't know how to run a government. Black people have been running government, empires for thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of years. We just don't know how old we are. We just dirt is just 1 second. Well, yeah, 1 second younger than us. We're just 1 second older than dirt. There's nothing new under the sun, as our sister was saying, Deborah Yao. I am very, very, very enamored to know that the table do turn, that people who think they're on top today won't be there tomorrow. As one of the people in the video was saying, their social wealth, or even poor white people, poor white trash, which is the name of a book that I read as well, can do better than somebody black, brown skin, in regard to taking those necessary steps to make it, to go beyond where they are, and to do better. Even though a black person can have all kinds of great credit, this, that, and the other, somehow this system of white supremacy helped the dumbest of white people make it. Helped the poorest of white people to make it. And pay no attention to brown-skinned people. So we're at the hour and 40-minute mark right now. What I want to do is to give a little bit of background, because we're not going to really get into the whole gist of what I want to really get into. That's going to happen when I do the analysis of my book, The White Man's Burden of Lies and Deceit. As I have put it here before, let me do that now. This is the first one. Let me get out of here. This is the first one, The White Man's Burden of Lies and Deceit 2, Understanding White Supremacy. It's about 700 pages. The first page, the first book, book 1, The White Man's Burden of Lies and Deceit 1, deals with why white people hate black people so much. And I thought I had put it here. Let me check it. I want to make sure that is done correctly. No, it's not here. So the first one can be found on Amazon, as well as the second one. And as I said before, it's better to buy the electronic book, right, the ebook, because it's filled with a lot of links that can be clicked on, and you get it within 5 minutes, rather than buying the paperback version, because you're not going to really get the full gist of what I'm trying to say in those links. So it's very important to buy the ebook, because you get into full details and receipts that I use in those links to prove what I'm saying. that America did not win the war in 1776, that we were corrupted and taken over by the banking cartel, the Rothschild that came along, and other wealthy family that came along and corrupted our uh, Constitution and changed it from the Constitution of the America to the Constitution for America. And the whole nine. And I get into that, the Nestor, Gestor, the whole nine. But the idea is that we need to become aware of what is really going on. I mean, look, we just got through 2 years of death with the VACCINE. 150 million people died worldwide from that. So there's a corruption, and there is a really corroded, a corroded element within our society. That is demonic, that is satanic, literally. Because a lot of people, if you want to make it into the movies, you want to make it into a singing or rap game or whatever, you got to do a lot of wicked, wild things. Like anal sex for the men and the women, like satanic rituals and eating children and consuming their adrenochrome. But all of that is, is covered, and I really don't want to go into too much detail, but the idea is still the same. Wake up, people. Because at the end of the day, we are all we got. We have to arrest the people who have killed all of these people because of the juice that they were forced to take. They didn't need. Our natural immunity is enough, and that is by God. And now the people who took the juice, they don't have any immune system. They can die from the common cold. And they are dying. There's a great by Stu Peters, a great video that talks about hold on a second. There's a great video that he produced that talked about how people just dying suddenly, and exactly called dying or died suddenly. And people's lives have been changed by that. People are losing their father, their mother, their daughter, their sons. The wicked nature of some doctors are giving that to kids at the height of that, and when they didn't need it, and people are collecting insurance money on that. Fucking ridiculous. I'm just really behooved by that, and I'm really taken aback by that. And the people who are in charge of that are pale skinned people, white people. Fauci, Bill Gates. Who the fuck gave Bill Gates an honorary PhD to do this, that, and the other? Poisoning our food with wannabe bio milk, it's called MILQ. It's not even fucking real milk. And they're producing 3D meat, 500 million pounds of that shit in Europe. So I beg the question, and I really want to understand. Well, I don't want to understand. I already know what I already understand. It's all about money. It's all about control. And it's all about reducing the population, you guys. But like I said, evil always destroys itself in the end, and those who partake in it always. But we cannot sit on our asses with our hand underneath our behind part. You have to get up and do something and get it done. We did it here, at least I did it here with in the Dominican Republic with my team of attorneys to stop the distribution of that gasoline. But you know what I'm trying to say, the juice the VACCINE, and it worked. The most dangerous virus in the world, COVID. You got a fucking cloth over your nose and your face. Hell, when you're in a burning building, you got to put on a gas mask. When you have a virulent virus, you putting on more than just a face mask. Come on, man. You guys are not thinking at all. You're being bamboozled and tricked into doing things that you, in a normal situation, you wouldn't do. But look, before we go, I really want to touch on a video that I'm going to be getting into in my book as well. The lies and the deception and the deceptive practices of white supremacy to make black people look as if we're dumb. We're the most intelligent people on the planet. And just looking at one thing, the pyramid, who do you think built them? And then they just didn't stack rocks on top of each other like white people have done when they first came into existence. They weren't doing anything. Being white is only 150 years old, excuse me. It started in 1780. It didn't take root until 1880. That can be found out in a woman by the name of Battlelora. And let me, I'm trying to think of her name. Can't think of her book. Hold on. Let me go there because I want to make sure that I'm being perfectly clear and that I am giving the proper information without being deceitful in a way. Or hold on. Her book, Jacqueline Battlelora, is on Amazon. And it's called The Birth of a White Nation. It's paperback, $10 or $10 ebook. And there are, and the other one, a really good one, is called The Invention of the White Race, the Origin of Racial Oppression, by Theodore Allen, The Invention of the White Race. And let me see if I can go back and bring up some more. Let me see. Hold on. Oh, that's a 2-volume one. Yeah, I didn't see that. I'm gonna have to buy the volume number 2. So as you can see, you got The Invention of the White Race and The Invention of the White Race 2. Battlelora's book, Birth of a White Nation. And this is another one, The History of White People by Nell Irvin Painter. Excellent book. So, and I almost forgot mine. The White Man Burden of Lies and Deceit. Okay. So, and this is my book, The White Man's Burden of Lies and Deceit, one that deals specifically with the overarching question for a lot of brown-skinned people, black people. Why do white people hate black people so much? And I go into great detail about that. Sorry about that. And I'm going to take the time to outline the important points of the book and to do a very detailed analysis of book 1 and a very detailed analysis of book 2. Right? So what I want to do, we're going to wrap it up with the next video. And it is based on Blumenbach and Meisner. Now, you know, I talked about Blumenbach and Meisner. They were social engineers of racial superiority and supremacy. Now, Blumenbach went to Greece and Rome, or whatever the case may be, and saw white alabaster statues. And due to the fact that he was a pale skin, he thought that that was or were his heritage or people or ancestors, and then they were not. The white unfinished alabaster works were about to be painted black. Now, those works were those of Greek gods and goddesses, of which the Grecian people, which were black, and the Romans were black, got their gods from Egypt. So he goes back to America and he starts making this claim about being the descendant of the Greeks and Romans, how they influenced the Western civilization. Well, you're talking about black people who civilized, who influenced Western civilization. There were no white people 4,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, 1,000,000 years ago. You guys just got here. Being white is about 150 years old, you guys. So stop whitewashing history and making yourself out to be more than what you are, because in the end, and what is happening now, that the truth is coming out more and more and more, especially when in Israel, who are the real Jews? They have always been black. Gamal Nasser said the Jews have left here black and came back white. We cannot accept you. The Middle East will never know peace ever with these so-called Zionist Jews. Now look at it. There is no peace. None. So we're going to wrap it up, and I'm going to get to the nooks and crannies of what this is all
Did
about.
you know that the best way to make an extra income on Amazon is not by setting up an online store?
So this video deals with the genetics of black people versus white people. Now with Blumenbach, like I stated, as well as Meisner, they got PhDs for bullshit. They got PhDs from Harvard and I think Yale or one of those. All based on pseudoscience, where they have the white skull of Apollo, which they thought was white, he's not, and then all of in sequence, all the other so-called races are lined up, and at the bottom you have the monkey, and right above that you have black people, and so when he started to talk, naturally, if you see the black skull at the bottom, just above the monkey skull, you're going to associate black people with monkeys. That's how it started, you guys. It's all bullshit. Now, I took 4 years of my life, or about 3.5, 4 years, writing about Darwin's theory of relativity, which is bullshit, saying that black people are not as advanced intellectually as white people. Are you fucking kidding me? Or Blumenbach and Meisner theories of racial animus toward black people and making themselves out to be higher than everyone. And you guys not. Are you fucking kidding me? We civilized you guys 3 times. Once in Egypt, once in Greece and Rome, and out of Spain after being kicked out in 1492. So how the fuck are you superior? But hold on, let me say this, because this video, which is about 18 minutes long, details the fact correctly and factually and truthfully, because truth doesn't give a fuck about your feelings or your emotions, about where are white people at on the intellectual scale. I say no more. Let's get at it and let's get out of here because my wife is looking kind of crazy at me. So I got to wrap it up in a minute. So let's look at this. It's about 20 minutes long. And if I need to stop it, I'll stop and make my comments and then come right back to it.
Due to popular demand, this once popular video is getting re-uploaded. Welcome back. Yep, that's me. In January of 2021, I shared a piece of interview by the Robinson brothers. I was only interested in the short part where they talked about the Black People DNA series. Unfortunately, certain errors had this clip taken down again and again. So I will link down the full 3-hour entirety of the interview, as I hope this one gets to stay for eternity to give Black brothers more insights into their being. Welcome back. Now, there are things that an average African or a Black person is never taught in school. One is their history, and second is any science that touches on their history. Now, to understand what it is I'm trying to say, take a look at this video and see if any of these things you hear you ever had in school.
I want Dr. Robinson to go into something that he came upon, which has set the scientific world of white geneticists to Dr. Robinson, back to DNA.
Yes. A few years ago, my brother and I read a book.
This is Calvin Robinson and his doctor brother, Edward Robinson. Whatever they're about to say will leave you speechless. You can also check out the other video I did about one comment I found mysterious under this video in 2021. How mysterious, you could ask? Well, that comment talked about this exact topic, but 13 seconds after the comment went live, it, together with the account of the original poster, mysteriously disappeared, like no one was ever supposed to read it. Let's go.
My brother and I read a book called The Mark of Oppression. And these two publishers, Cardiner and Oversee, said that they could not understand how is it that a group of people, African Americans, have been bludgeoned over their heads mentally and spiritually for hundreds of years and are still surviving. They couldn't understand it. And they said so in their book. The answer came out 1996. Why it is that not only have African Americans survived the worst mental and spiritual bludgeoning of any people in recorded history, but they are becoming champions of everything in which there is a level playing field. No matter what it is, we predominate in every field. This is why they won't teach our children African history, because they know that once our children get on the same level playing field as their white counterparts, that they will dominate just like we dominate in basketball, baseball, football, track and field, and anything else in which there is a level playing field. So that while they teach their children about the greatness of their European ancestors, they won't teach our children about the greatness of their African ancestors, because then that would be a level playing field in academia. And they know that we will predominate, just like all of these examples we've given them, that our children predominate when they know who they are from an African historical point of view. Now, here's what I found out in 1996. A group of geneticists wrote this book. Little tiny geneticists.
How it came out.
Yeah, okay. All right, sure. Yes, indeed. As an organization is called the American Association for the Advancement of Science. The American Association for the Advancement of Science. And this organization is composed of people who study about DNA and the genome and you've been reading about the DNA and the genomes. Well, this group of scientists came upon an idea by accident at first that different groups of people had different numbers of DNA series. Now, a DNA series means that when your DNA is located, and say they get a hair from your head and they subject it to certain tests, they say, well, this is the DNA of Minister Brown, and yours is different from everybody else in the world. All right? Then they found further that not only are their DNA series different, but the number of DNAs in there are different in different groups. Whites have a different number of DNA, and blacks have a different number of DNA series. Apes have a different number of DNA series. Then they found this amazing thing, that the greater the number of DNA series, the smarter the person, the group is, the greater the probability of genius within that group. So they tested the orangutans, these 15 geneticists from around the world. Now, these geneticists came from 9 different universities. And we have here on the cover of the pamphlet they put out.
Sorry about that. Just hold on for a second.
The names of these geneticists. And you can see them right there, right beneath the title of this pamphlet. Now, this pamphlet, most people have no idea what it means. But breaking it down, and after you study it and have it explained to you by a geneticist, a trained geneticist, you will find that they're talking about DNA series. Now, here are the names of these 15 geneticists from around the world: University of Japan, University of China. Yale University is the headquarters of this organization called the American Association for the Advancement of Science. And you see it down here. Now, this was copyrighted in 1996. All right. What it said is this, and this is the mind-blowing part. It said that when they tested the orangutan, they found out he only had 3 DNA series. They tested the gorilla. They found that the gorilla has 4 DNA series, but he's a little smarter than the orangutan. They tested the chimpanzee, which is an ape, and found that he had 5 DNA series. Then they went all into the different races of the world. They went into Europe and tested the DNA series of the English, the French, the German, the Spanish, the Russians, and found they had 6 DNA series. Then they put all of this, what they found from around the world, on a map. And this map really is called the intelligence map of the world, because they tested 116 different human groups and found their DNA series number. All of them, all over the world, have 6. And they put the numbers in form of a little flag that you can see on this map. These little flags have a color. And they show, oh, this is upside down. I'm sorry. Yeah. And they show that the English have only 6, all into Europe, only 6, went over into Japan and China, they only have 6, over into America, which is predominantly European, they only have 6. Then they came to Africa. They came to the part of Africa. Now, all the rest of them, they put in little flag colors. Those flag colors are orange, red. Notice. But when he came to Africa, found out that the African people have 9.
Let me stop it here.
From
Now you got to realize too that Blumenbach came back from Greece and Rome with a lie, because these people are not very intelligent. You know what I mean? They got their smarts from us, from black people, from brown-skinned people. Pythagoras did not create the Pythagorean theorem. That was already known, guys. And any and everybody else that they claim to be white did this, that, and the other. As far as medicine goes, Imhotep is the father of medicine, not Hippocrates. Imhotep lived thousands of years before Hippocrates. So all they did was steal the information, put their name on it, and the rest is history. So what you are hearing right now with this hidden DNA discovery, that black people have a DNA sequence of intelligence of 9, and the monkey, the chimpanzee, all the way up to 4, oh, I'm sorry, all the way up to 5 have that in their intelligence sequence. And white people have an intelligence sequence of 6. So they're just one step up from the fucking monkey. Now, if you go back, and these are not my words. When I am on here, I am exposing the truth for what it is. Truth over feelings and fucking emotion. I give no fucks about that, all right? I'm here to tell you the lie has come back to bite these so-called pale-skinned children of ours in the ass. And that is exactly what is happening. And they can't deal with it. Their parents lied to them, telling them that they're white, that they're special, that they have this, that, and the other going on. They have nothing going on but lies and deceitful ways of living that have decimated the world. Hell, there's no Tasmanian people left on the planet. No man, no woman, no child, no baby. They killed every last one of them. The last man that was alive, a Tasmanian, they cut the testicle sac off and made it out of a tobacco pouch. So the world is replete, guys, with all of this death and destruction. And from the very first video that I get into with Chris Hedges, lays it out as to what and how they go about doing it. But they forget that karma is an effect. You cannot do wrong without it coming back to bite you in your ass. Everything that they have done will come back and is coming back to them. The Muslim Brotherhood throughout Europe is there now. If you listen to, and I'm going to look for Eva's, because I'm not going to play it. Eva, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing her last name correctly, but Eva, at Eva, VLAAR, on X, on Twitter, and she did a scathing cry of white supremacy on some platform that she did in Hungary or wherever the hell she was, talking about how important it is for white people to come together and protect their homeland. Motherfucker, Europe is not your homeland. We put you where we put you. Black people put you albinoids in Central Asia. That's where you come from. And you are descendants of albinos from India, known as Dravidian albinos. But I'm going to get to that when I do the analysis, the in-depth analysis on my book, The White Man's Burden of Lies and Deceit, 1 and 2. So let's go back to the video and wrap it up. I might do another one because this one is very important too. But let's go back and finish up this video, and let's see if we can do another one, because this is the one right here where you see the arrow that I'm having here. It's called the presence of melanin turns you into a god. So we might have time to do just that one more. So let me continue.
Here, just below the Songhai Empire, down to the foot of Africa. All those 10 nations, of which African Americans descended from one of them. We have 9 DNA series, the greatest possibility of genius. Now, it's answered this age-old question. How can a people survive being told they're nothing for 400 years, never allowed to learn that they came from beautiful cities, and told they came from the jungle? How could a people survive? How can a people become champions in everything they touch? Because they have 9 DNA series, while the rest of the world has only 6. This is why they copyrighted it. Notice, outside of this, that this map is taken. I took this map right from this page here, and I blew it up so that the world could see it, even though this is copyrighted. I can't let you have this book because it's copyrighted. Title of the book is called Global Patterns of Linkage, Disequilibrium at the CD4 locus and Modern Human Origins. Global Patterns of Linkage, Disequilibrium at the CD4 locus and Modern Human Origins. Now you have to be a geneticist to even know what they're talking about. But when we broke it down and interviewed Dr. Kidd, the head, he's the chairman at Yale University, he broke it down into plain, everyday English so that the world would know that the African American descended from those people who gave to the world the Great Pyramid, gave to the world science, gave to the world mathematics. A black man named Ahmose gave algebra to the world 3,700 years ago. It's in the world books, it's in the encyclopedias. They don't want our children to know this, because then that would make the playing field level for white children. And you know what happened when they made the playing field level in basketball and allowed black men to play. Out of 29 of the top seeded players in the world today, 28 are African American. When they opened up the Penn Relays, when they opened up the Olympics and allowed blacks to run back in 1932, we won all the gold medals. And the same thing will happen in the classroom when they allow our children to learn their African. That's what this is saying. Dr. Ross, saying that I am saying that we are descended from the West African who have 9 DNA series on this map. That these geneticists see the green down there. Well, that's where we're from. That's where African Americans are from. They couldn't. They tested American as a group, whites. They have 6. They didn't test African American because they know that we are the same people from West Africa. They didn't have to. That's true. That's true. How is it that you think that Nah, well, it tells you in here. This book tells why.
Comienza tu camino hoy con GoDaddy.
I apologize.
Si puedes imaginarlo, puedes construirlo, sea cual sea tu.
Preemie babies leaving the mother's womb early, too early, never develop to the same height that a baby that runs a full term, right? White folk, China, all mankind arose in Africa. All mankind arose in this part of Africa right here, called the womb of Africa. That's the womb of Africa over here, right there. No. That Kenya. Yeah, that area. All mankind arose there. The great granddaddies of white folks, great granddaddies of Chinese, great granddaddies of Japanese, our great granddaddies, all of us look the same. All look like apes. That was called Australopithecus. I don't know how technically you want me to get it. Australopithecus was the granddaddy, great granddaddy of all races. Now, they left the womb 800,000 years ago. Whites left the womb and wandered up into Europe, and the Chinese wandered over into Asia. And they left the womb before they were fully developed. That's why they did not develop melanin that way. Those of us who stayed developed full term.
Now, this one I have a problem with. White people, they come from Dravidian albinos. The people who left Africa, who went into Europe, went into Japan, went into, what we call Japan today and what we call Chinese today. They were black-skinned, dark-skinned people. They never had any ounce of influence as far as the weather goes on your skin. If that's the case, then the people who are still alive and well and doing well in the coldest environments ever, the Inuit who have black skin, are still black skin or brown skin. They're still there. And I prove that in my book, without a doubt, with receipts, that white people as we know them to be today, our children, come from Dravidian albino. Now, everything else that he's talking about, I agree with you. I agree with him. But that part, no, they did not exist 800,000 years ago. They just got here 3,000 years ago. So let's continue.
They never developed the melanin stimulating hormone. This is why we're the only race on the planet that does not have headlights in our head. Headlights, they're little bugs. Yeah, cootie. We're the only race on the planet because we developed full term. We lost our straight hair, that animal hair, over 150,000 years ago. You see, all other races have headlights because they never developed fully. Melanin is this magical chemical that is developed on the 5th layer of the epidermis of the skin. Now, we've been brainwashed to believe that the less melanin you have, the prettier you are. But that's the brainwash. That's like saying a naked person is prettier than a person with beautiful clothes on. If you get what I'm trying to say, the scenario, yeah. Melanin heals. When you cut yourself, the melanin rushes to the surface of the skin and forms a scab. What color is that scab? I don't care what color. Brown, dark brown. That's the melanin coming up to heal you. This is why we do not get skin cancer. It's because of the melanin prevention. The only place where we can get skin cancer, we learn this in the part today, is on the palm of the hand and the fingers. And I can't believe we be putting our head up to the sun to get skin cancer. 2 million years ago, Australopithecus, that's all was on Earth, the great granddaddy of all human beings. And he was there about 3 DNA series. And then as millions of years went on, evolved into what is known as Homo erectus. He had about 3.5 inches. About the level of the orangutan. You look at the orangutan today, you can see what our ancestors look like. But they have the same golden hair as Europeans hair right today. The orangutan. Heard of the orangutan? Go there in India. Now, maybe this is a little too rough for your audience. You want to get bombarded out of your face like they at all. So, as the hundreds of thousands of years went by, we acquired, all mankind acquired more and more. But those who left Africa 800,000 years ago did not get past 6 DNA series. Womb is Africa. That's where you develop.
So that's it for this video. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and share.
So that's the end of that video. I'm going to wrap it up, and I really want to go into this video, and that's going to be it for tonight. For those who are watching, listen. Facts over feelings. Truth over emotion. And this is the reason why I say that white people have a lot of internal confusion, internal hate, internal psychosis, psychopathic nature, because then they don't have any sense of justice and empathy. There's no accountability with white people. They're getting away with rape and pedophilia and murder, you name it. If the justice system was fair, there would not be any white people walking on the street, because all of them are fucking criminals. And I'm not saying that harshly. I'm saying it as it is. If the truth came out with all the pedophilia that's going on in Hollywood and the political realm, when I was in Illinois, what do you call it? The Speaker of the House, I can't remember his name. He was brought up on pedophilia charges. So this is not my imagination. This is what's going on in the royal families of Great Britain, King Charles wannabe. And I think his brother-in-law, I can't think of his name, but you know who I'm talking about, right? And a lot of these people in the political spectrum, the economic realm, have gone on and been on Epstein's Island. And Epstein's Island, or Jeffrey Epstein, isn't the only one that's doing it. But let me go on and do this last one, and we're going to wrap it up, because I really want to make sure I'm not in trouble with my wife. She just peeped out and looked at me. So I'm going to go on and do this last one. This is very important. So let's go at it.
Hey, it's Adam from StreamYard. We have an exciting new feature to announce called Green Room, which is now
Melanin. What is melanin? Melanin is a complex polymer derived from amino acid tyrosine. In humans, it is responsible for producing or determining the pigments in the hair, skin, and the eyes. According to Dr. Delbert Blair, this complex polymer has the ability to turn you to a god. So what's a god? Although no human is supposed to be worshipped, a god can simply be described as an individual, a race, or a group of people able to do the supernormal. These are the 5 ways that the presence of melanin in your body turns you into a god. Instantaneous reactions to energy field. Since melanin reacts independently to the rest of the body organs, it is capable of reacting instantaneously when exposed to different energy fields.
People who have melanin have been told that everything in the body is governed by the brain. and that every reaction in every system is brain governed, and that is wrong. Melanin acts independently. It is capable of instantaneous reaction to energy fields without being processed through any of the neuron synapses and dendrite stems of the brain. In other words, it acts as a chlorophyllin carrier. It takes energy, reacts to it, and processes own information to its nearby cell. That's why you can get again those beautiful moves of the Michael Jordan. Those cuts and so by the football players, and those immediate reactions, because you can't stop and think. They have to train people without melanin or with little melanin to react. People with melanin react anyway because it's like when they showed on the Black Buddhas, you have eyes everywhere. You are totally conscious, and you don't wait for brain processing, which slows it down. What proves this to you in the class is because you can then click pain. And if you have your mind off somewhere, it'll take sometimes up to 15 seconds before you feel the pain. And you can even delay that longer if you're trying to offset pain by merely mind control. They don't teach you, though, with melanin, you can make that instantaneous reaction, or you can delay it up to 30 seconds, or you cannot even get to feel it at all by simply using certain ways with melanin and ingesting certain foods and herbals.
Speeds the healing process in half. Melanin can speed up the healing process by half and by a third in strong magnetic fields.
Melanin is a gift from the gods. With melanin, you can speed up your healing process in half. And if you really get into a strong magnetic field, nothing to do with the electricity, which hurts you in the main, you can be even cut that into a third. You can see into the body without using anode cathode ray bombardments if you have melanin by using magnetic fields. Once you begin to use this kind of energy in this fashion again, per se, you can speed up everything that your body does and everything that your brain does. You can even speed up the kind of energy and frequencies that normally you're attuned to that come in your body and into your brain. This makes you a god.
Bilocate. When functioning correctly, people's melanin can be in consciousness in one place and the body in another.
When your melanin is functioning correctly, you can bilocate by being in consciousness one place while being in your body in another. Some people call that state now death. That is real life. That's why they used to have guardians for the body, watchers, and all kind of other terms that some of you, Louisiana, Mississippi, from the old country, and with the teachings of the god Valdal knew about. And that's what used to run to those people to bilocate and tell you what was happening and to influence your enemies. And you know, your grandfathers talked about it. Some of you may even practice it now. But practice it in the light in the full capacity. It is a gift to God. You earned it. When you don't do the drugs, and I do a lecture called Drugs and the Astral. If ever you want to get a dope head off of his drugs, teach a person with melanin who still knows that he has a soul in the spirit and she has a soul in the spirit, that they actually can ground their soul on hell. That's the other term for earth when the non-melanin carriers can. And have to go through this 9 lifetimes, get it straight again. And if they don't believe that, ask them, what do you think they're doing with their life now when they themselves know down deep that the days are passing by and they're going nowhere except into a total extermination of their physical body. The herbals that you take work differently because they have part of the earth in it, and part of that earth awakens the old earth people who are melanin carriers. And therefore, all of those kingdoms of the plants, animals, the insects, the birds that fly, and everything that creeps and crawls and moves responds to that vibration because it was a vibration that they were created in also, and they look upon you as gods. Gods who don't know who they are.
What's the first thing you do in the morning?
Hold
I can
on.
tell you what not to do. Do not start your morning with coffee, and do
Reach astounding frequencies. When melanin in form of high energy yields vibrates, every cell in the body vibrates faster, producing astounding frequencies that can be physically tested.
Inasmuch as melanin works on every part of the body and is in every cell of your body, now when the energy fields of Earth change, it will begin to vibrate faster, and every part of you begin to quicken in what it's capable of doing. The tests of any kind, the inoculations using basic low vibrations, food that does not have energy stored within it cannot work well for you now because you are in the process of change. When the melanin in a form of high energy yield throughout the body vibrates, every cell in every organ vibrates faster. Since melanin is also in the brain vibrates faster. And the frequencies that it can reach are astounding. There are the frequencies that let you seem to be out of your body looking down on it that they all talk about. There are the frequencies that let you sense when something's going to happen to one of your loved ones before it happens. And if it's happening, almost go crazy because you know it's happening even though you're not there. It beats any switch on AT&T, Northern Telecom, or Bell Atlantic. It is your instantaneous form of communication. It is a thing that messes up your cable TV when you pass by it. It's a thing that sometimes when you get excited, again, begins to interfere with your TV patterns. And it's a thing that we just don't utilize enough. Why? Because who was going to teach it? The teachers were killed when they brought us out of Mother Africa. The teachers were killed when they attempted to do it here. And even under the Masonic Guild and the ancient ones who tried to at least serve the gods by helping the children of the gods do what they were killed and tortured as worse as you were because they didn't want you to know you weren't. They wanted to steal the planet, imprison you, and take what the gods left. Again, I'm talking about gods, advanced scientists from many worlds watching a special project here on this planet Tierra, Shan, Sanche, all names for this little place.
Cosmic wisdom. When operating correctly, melanin can cause the pituitary gland to release hormones that give flashes of the cosmic healing.
Melanin, when operating well, causes the pituitary gland to release hormones that they haven't even cataloged. They can't because they have no way to measure the hormonal things because they're instantaneously then and they're gone. But when they're there, they give you flashes of the cosmic universe. Intuitive flashes in full color of who you have been and what you can be. Same flashes that when you depart this body and your life passes before you, you go through again. But did they ever teach you you don't have to die to bring that about? That cosmic wisdom of knowing everything that your ancestors do is yours every night when you go to sleep and between 11 and 2:30 when the melanin glands are working at its best. But you must have total darkness. That's why they give you the TVs that never go out. I told you in a previous lecture, everybody here this summer will get one shade darker than they are, whether you go out in the sun or not, because the light will be entering into you. Energy will come in whether you close windows or doors or not. And for those who are not used to it, it is absolutely carcinogenic, leukemic death that they're asking. Go out in the sun this summer. But as the melanin is stepped up, if you must go on in it, you can survive. The point is, again, it will begin to make your head feel as though it was almost wavering And until you balance out that melanin and get the higher frequencies going, all it will do in some cases is give headaches. Other cases that make you want to cover the head, but at night when you sleep, each night having been exposed to that, the melanin will go through a metamorphosis and you will wake up with more insight as to who you are, and certain psychic abilities will begin to form within 48 hours after that exposure. If you adapt to it, the next time out, more happens. And then the DNA and the cells will begin to come together, just like a magnet, because magnetism is what it will awaken in your body. And then they'll begin to entwine the strands little by little up to the year 1997, when all melanin carriers are supposed to have 10 of their strands back together. Then you will see the difference in having melanin and not having melanin.
So, what do you all think? As the presence of melanin, what time for God? Share those in the comment section. Otherwise, give this video a thumbs up, like it, subscribe if you are new to this channel, and watch more videos.
Okay, that was a great one. What I want to do, I want to find another one. That wasn't exactly the one, but that's an important one. So let me go back and see what the heck is going on.
Due to popular demand, this one's popular video is getting re-uploaded.
Okay. Okay, so we're hold on, so let me go to my history and we're here. And we're about wrapping it up right now. I'm just looking for that actual video. That's a good one. But when you have a chance, please add this. Check this one out as well. That's one of the ones that I was trying to get in, but it's running a little bit late. I don't want to be trying to do no 4 or 5 hour video. But please take a look at this one. White woman dropped the truth bomb about reparations for Jews. Check that one out. Check this one out because Tucker Carlson doesn't believe that Jews were black. And I've been writing to him for I don't know how long to be on his show to let him have it. So if you have any influence or anything like that to get in contact with Tucker, tell him I am going to wipe the floor with him. All right. And let me see. If I can find it, I'll it'll be cool. If not, then the next time that I'm on, I will bring it up. But it looks like I'm not. Oh, this is the preacher, the Alabama mega church pastor, saying to the white audience who is followers in his church, shut your white mouth in regard to the real children of Israel, which was black people. That's another one. And let me see. I don't see the one that I truly wanted to play, but that's cool. What I'm going to do, I'm going to end it. I thought it might have been this one, 3 Black history that will be hidden and forgotten in the near future, I guess. I think that might be it. But let me see, because I don't see it here on my computer. You know what? Let me play that one. I'm going to extend this one a little bit. Let me see if this is it.
If you don't know how to make chords, this is it. Congratulations. The chords are already made for you.
And what the last thing he wants you to understand is who the original people are, and why the original people are, and where the original people.
Yeah, this is it. This is the one. So you know what? I'm gonna let this one be the last one, and it really spells it out. Okay, so we'll just run this one because I don't want to like, oh, you had it on here, you should have played it and all of this. Okay, well, we're gonna play it. It's only 16 minutes long, so let's get at it.
Are and when the original people came. None of that was a teaching.
Dr. Debat Blair was an engineer, research scientist, metaphysician, and historian recognized for his comprehensive work and teachings in various domains, including metaphysics, spirituality, and history. He led the Mental Center in Chicago for over 50 years, starting from 1973.
Did promise that I wanted to go over a few things about Black history, but this is present history that will be Black history in the future. When you understand later on, when that satellite went down, they won't tell you it's because of energy coming out of Africa that is coming up now into space and beginning to disturb everything that's running on electricity. Another statement I want to make, electricity is slowed down magnetism. Above electricity and magnetism is what is called orgone energy. And those are bad words. You don't want to say orgone out here to this government and research scientists because orgone means original. It's organic. It's orgasm. It's organic. It's organic people. And of course, they refer to those kind of people as original people. But you do hear a word that's used a lot. It's called aboriginal. Never use that word aboriginal if you are indigenous to the planet. Why? Because it means to abhor the original person. Aboriginal means to abhor the original. To abhor means to hate, to envy, to covet, to dislike. Consequently, the word aboriginal means that you have a dislike for the original person. And the original person, of course, is a person with melanin. That's been proven so many times now that if necessary, I won't spend the time with an audience like you to go into that, but nevertheless. Let me first of all say that when you see Obama, you're seeing Alexander Hamilton. Raise your hand if you remember anything at all about Alexander Hamilton. Let me just see your audience here again. Anything about Alexander? Just a few of you, not many. Alexander Hamilton was Secretary of the Treasury back in the 1700s, and Alexander Hamilton was a Black man. Now, when you read the history books, he was Secretary of the Treasurer, and if you see on your $10 bill, you see a caucanized, Caucasian-looking person with long flowing hair and so on and so forth. Actually, Alexander Hamilton looked much like Brother Obama to be his brother. And I have a picture which you can appreciate from here, and I didn't bring my slides. I didn't do that. I didn't know I had that privilege again. But you will see it. I'll try to make some copies before I leave town if possible. If not, you can write to our center and give it. This is a picture on your right of Obama, or I'm sorry, Alexander Hamilton. And a picture of Alexander Hamilton as they want you to think he looked. And if you look at him as he actually looked, you will see he looks so much like Obama, it's a shame. And Hamilton was killed in a duel with Aaron Burr. The real reason was because they didn't like him because he was controlling the currency, trying to set the United States back on a gold standard, had a lot of influence in politics and was going nation over the seas, and many people were respecting him. Consequently, they offed him, supposedly with a jewel over a woman. And this is the one of that one. The same thing could happen again in history if it goes away because they look too much alike. Nobody's made that comparison, and it just opens up the box for many other comparisons too. We've already had 6 Black presidents, 7 if you include John Hanson, who was president before George Washington. So when you're teaching in school that the first president of the United States was George Washington, that's a big lie. He was president of the Continental Congress, and this is when the indigenous people here were teaching them how to run a country. And one of the most indigenous people they could find, of course, was John Hanson, who was re-elected twice, which means if you want to say he served 2 terms, you can almost say we had a president before George Washington that was Black 2 times.
Now, that is not true. I'm not trying to throw shade on Dr. Blair. He's very good at what he do. But sometimes people just don't know. George Washington was a Black guy. He was the first president, the first Black president under the U.S. Constitution, John Hanson was the president under the Articles of Confederation. So let's continue.
There were 7 people elected during that particular time. All of that has been erased out of history, and therefore we start off with the first lie in misnomer that the first president of the United States of America was George Washington. It was not. Under the Constitutional Congress, it was John Hanson.
Black presidents. Now, while a lot of people associate Barack Obama as the first president of America who was black, Dr. Delbert Blair reminds us of a few other past presidents of America who trace their origins to indigenous black people. He dives extensively by giving examples such as Abraham Lincoln, why he was killed, his skin texture, and maternal parents.
But even in so, when we're now looking at least talking about presidents again, we've had 7 if you're going to include John Hanson, 6 if you're not going to include him. One was Thomas Jefferson. He was part Indian. He really knew this and never denied it too much again. And of course, his wife really, without marrying her, was Sally Hemings. If you read about the whole story of Sally Hemings and what happened there and how, again, they were lovers on the side, if you will, that takes care of it. It could go much deeper than I do on the tapes. Another was Warren Gamil Harding. And Warren Harding, of course, also had a wife on the side called Dora Wilburn. His mother was Elizabeth Harding. His mother was Elizabeth Madding until she married a Harding. She was already, again, a mulatto, if you want to call it. And his great-grandmother was Elizabeth Harding herself. So you had Elizabeth Madison and Elizabeth Harding. One of the books by J.A. Rogers, a person who was supposed to be unlettered, and I learned more from him than I did from most professors that chose to teach me Black history. And this is a picture, although you can't see it from there. It shows, again, Warren Harding's father, and you can see he's a very definite Black man. Warren Gamil Harding, of course, then was a Black president. When I say Negro, I can't deal with that either because I don't know what a Negro is. So consequently, we just say he was a person of African ancestry, or at least a person that had melanated blood, if you would.
Also, if you look at John F. Kennedy and his wife, Jacqueline Kennedy, they were both Black people. So it's not exactly the level of or the non-level of melanin in your skin. There are a lot of so-called Black people who pass for white that look white, but they're not. So it's not so much that, you know what I mean? And especially when you look at Jacqueline Kennedy and John Kennedy after being in the sun, dark brown. I rest my case. So let's continue.
We also get into Calvin Coolidge. Nobody likes to talk with that one too much, but he was an indigenous. He was part Blackfoot and part Cherokee, and many say that he was part of the Menominee tribe. Well, the reason why they say Menominee, that's just a way of evading it, is because amongst the Menominee, you can get somebody looking as white, all the way down as black and black. The Menominee are mixed indigenous people. How they got that way is a long story. That's very metaphysical, but that's what you can find amongst the Menominee. You're really just saying, well, I don't know, so therefore we'll give them a title of that. And of course, their names are not Indians because Columbus thought that he went to India. So even the people, and I've taught at some of the American Indian school there for a while, it's another one of the things the Creator has had me to do, they don't even know what to call themselves. They still call themselves Indians. They were never called Indians. They were called by the tribe they were, or indigenous. And as I say again, never confuse indigenous with aboriginal. Andrew.
Comienza tu camino hoy
Right,
con
hold on.
GoDaddy. Si puedes imaginarlo, puedes construirlo, sea cual.
Jackson was the hardest one I had in trying to research. I'd heard rumors through J.A. Rogers and other scholars that I went to school with. So I got on the radio and almost got in trouble with that one. So it made me just study some more. I don't give up easily. I'm pretty tenacious once I get the scent. And I had to sit there. So what I found out was that Andrew Jackson was born on the Crawford Farm, which was in Virginia, and he was born 14 months after his father died. There were no white men on the farm, and his oldest brother, Hamilton, was sold as a slave, which later on he had to free. Both had the same mother and supposedly the same father. But then I did even more research because they got on my case about it, and I found out that in Ireland, he was part of the area where the black Celt live, the Black Irish. Black Irish are just that. They're very dark skinned. They live near the water area again, and they're called Black Irish because of that. So I have to definitely include him now, and I don't back off of that. Another.
Let me repeat that again. Black Irish. The Irish, the Dane, the Scots, you name it, out of Europe were all black-skinned people, brown-skinned people. Therefore, John F. Kennedy was an Irish president. Do I need to really explain this? You get the idea. Let's continue.
Of course, was Abraham Lincoln. And of course, the famous thing of freeing a slave was Sailor Yoden, and by God, freed a slave. Well, should have been because he was one. In fact, the swarthy texture of his skin, which simply means colored rather than texture, there were people who served him as servants who were lighter in complexion than Abraham Lincoln was. One of the reasons he was assassinated was because he was black, but that's not the only reason. He tried to set the United States back on the gold standard. Kennedy made the same mistake because of what they call the globalists in the Federal Reserve. You just don't do that, but that's another whole story. Abraham Lincoln's father, who was Thomas Lincoln, had married Nancy Hank, and Nancy Hanks' father was a black man, mother was a white woman, but therefore automatically he had to be part black or part African or swarthy complexion, whatever you would. Her mother was Lucy Hanks. Pictures of Lucy Hanks are everywhere. No doubt his mother and his grandmother were both black people, black women. The last one that I want to deal with is Dwight David Eisenhower. And Dwight David Eisenhower, who warned us about the militia takeover and told you about the industrial complex and better watch it again, he should very well know. Dwight David Eisenhower, when married a woman, well, his mother, he was Dwight David Eisenhower. David Eisenhower was his father. Dwight was him. Dwight had married what they call the Aleutian Brethren. These were a group of people who believed in interracial marriage because of religion, that all people should be one. And I have pictures of that. I didn't bring it. I don't like to travel with stuff nowadays. I get stopped almost everywhere I go. So that's one will stay there. I would have brought a replica, but I said no, I didn't. But that can be gotten again through our website, or if you want to contact the Meta Center itself.
Pyramids. Dr. Delbert Blather dives into the 18th century Egypt, those who ruled Egypt then, and what was the real purpose of the pyramids.
18th dynasty Egypt, which is one that everybody should remember because that was the last time when extraterrestrials and terrestrials mated and ruled a kingdom over in Egypt. That's what the Great Pyramids were based about too. They've told you all wrong on the Great Pyramids until recently, because they told you it's a burial place, and there's not one pyramid over in the Giza Plateau that was ancient that was ever used as a burial ground. You've had some lesser kings that tried to emulate that, and it was buried there. It was not. Those are generators. Those are Oregon energy generators, and that's why they're coming active again. If you've been over there recently, you'll find out there's a humming and a beat in the ground around there. The first thing you have to adapt to when you now go into modern Egypt is staying asleep at night with that like a humming going on there. If you remember, Andre Sawas over there, who's a curator, has built a wall around some of that area because they're still doing research now because they don't want you to understand the following thing. Granite structures, which contain piezoelectricity, and pyramids around the earth now are beginning to give off a resonant, a hum, a vibration. They're tuning into the new planetary vibration, and they don't want you to understand that. That's why now crystals are hard to get. Try to get some good crystals nowadays, big ones, and watch what you have to go through, especially if you get a bunch of them, because they now can generate that new energy, which can be very helpful to you if you understand how to use them, and they don't want you to know it. But granite, pyramid-shaped structures around our earth are beginning to give off a humming, vibrational resonance. Birds can hear it, animals can hear it, you can hear it too if you have melanin, and if you can get the drugs out of your system, you begin to feel it. Also, people now that have melanin can feel a tension and a higher vibration. It's like an uneasiness that's going on. People say, well, can't you sense it? Well, if you don't have melanin, it's hard to sense anything. This is where the problem comes in. We have a people who are senseless when it comes to spirituality, trying to direct you, who are spiritual people having a hard time with their reality. It's a matter of what you think is real and what is a fact of what is real.
Religion. Speaking of religion, Dr. Blair points that there are 13 people who led religions around this planet, except the Christian religion. Why that is so is up to us to find out.
When you look at the history books about religion, you will find that there have been 13 people who have led religions around this planet, all of them black, except the one that has the Christian religion. Isn't that a statement? But it's true. All of them black. Some of the titles that they're given even means black, which is also very interesting again. When you begin to check out in history again and you find Buddha, which is supposed to be an Oriental god, Buddha, if you would. Buddha means Buddha. It's a hail the black. Buddha is woolly haired. You've never seen a straight haired Buddha, no matter where you went to. They all have the big hara, as they call it again. And it represents a black person leading a religion. When you begin to look amongst what would be called the Japanese, they have Zahira. Zahir and Fuhai, which are sometimes interchanged, are both black ancient gods of the people now who worship there, if you would. When you begin to look at Scandinavia, because people say again, well, in Scandinavia, you can't get anything there, you have King Tyr, or the god Tyr, Tyr, always shown as pug-nosed, big-lipped, big-eyed, looking what we now connotate as being Negroid. And this is in Scandinavia, but you never see this again. When you go down to Mexico and you go down to some of the areas there in the, you might have called the south of our border again, you have Quetzalcoatl and Ixtilton. Ixtilton and Quetzalcoatl always were shown as being dark with feathers showing winged flight. Either they had feathers as a headdress around their waist. Ixtilton just was shown as just a black person, period. These are two of the Mexican and South American gods, all of them, both of them, being black.
Blair was renowned for his role as a director, pastor, lecturer, and author, contributing significantly to discussions and forums on a wide array of subjects such as ancient Egyptians, history, metaphysical studies, and the impact of technology on health and society. Dr. Delbert Blair, a name synonymous with the exploration of higher consciousness and the mysteries of the universe. Born on March 12, 1939 in Chicago, Illinois, Dr. Blair dedicated his life to unraveling the secret of the mind and spirit. With a background in engineering and metaphysics, Dr. Blair.
Okay, that's a wrap. I think I pretty much covered it as well as I intended, so I feel really good about this video. And like all other videos, I want to make sure I am precise, thorough, and I am standing on what is right, just, and true. That is what my art is all about. From all of the three most important or the biggest world religions for philosophies in life are Islam, Judaism, and Christianity comes out of my art. So I give praise to our ancestors. I give praise to our ancestors speaking through me to you. And I bless their memories, and I bless their thoughts, and I bless their lives that has been blessing us for the longest. And I know for a fact that as soon as black people start to wake up, and we are doing that, it's over. Gaddafi said, if you kill me, you'll be opening the door to all of hell for all of eternity. And now look at what has happened. White people are not very smart. They're arrogant, prideful, and pride comes before the fall. And the world table is turning. The world is turning back to black. It has to. It did it after Egypt, after we got them out of Egypt, after we got them out of Greece and Rome, and after we're getting them now, after getting kicked out of Spain in 1492. The world has no other place to go but to go black again. And this is where we are. And white people are fearful beyond their wildest imagination. And I really, let me do that. I really wanted to hone in to see if I can find it again. Her name is Eva Valaring, something like that. Let me see. Eva Valar. Oh, so here we go. Eva Valardinger Browick. And so let me pull her up. This is her. And she's describing in front of the world. Let me see if I can find it. Oh my God. I hate it when I do this and not really. But you can, hold on, let me see. Oh, here we go. Here it is. It's 12 minutes long. I don't want to do another 12 minutes. But if you come back here on YouTube, you can see it. Eva Valardinger Broek on the State of European Affairs at CPAC conference in Hungary, the full speech. Please check it out. She is screaming white supremacy. And Europe doesn't belong to them. Ridiculous. But I really appreciate you guys sticking around. For those who are watching, please subscribe to our channel. Let me see. Yeah, please subscribe to our channel. And if you'd like to support us as well, you can do so by going to Patreon.com/WMB333. And hold on, let me see. And also check out my ebook on Amazon, The White Man's Burden of Lies and Deceit, available on Amazon for about $20, both of them. Well, 20, that'll be $40. And remember, please hit the subscribe button and tell people about our stream. We are available on Rumble now, just in case YouTube gets a little bit out of pocket. You can find us there on Rumble as well, under the WMB show. And again, I really appreciate you guys sticking it out with me. And there's much, much more to come. And I am truly looking forward to doing the next show about my book, The White Man's Burden of Lies and Deceit, and book 2. So let me, is that what I wanted to do? Yeah, okay. Well, let's get out of here. I'm tired. It's 11:33 in the Dominican Republic. So my wife is looking at me like I'm crazy because I know I'm in trouble. But anyway, let's get out of here. And I really appreciate you guys sticking around. And I will be posting the next show. Might be next week or within 2 weeks. And I'm going to have to really analyze and put in an outline form my 2 books. And I really want to, if you know me by now, I like doing a thorough job. So peace and stay blessed, and we're out. Peace.